Hello, everybody. My presentation today is going to be about this cool problem that my friend showed me a while ago. And it's one of those problems where like it's a bunch of steps and you get every single one wrong until you realize what's actually happening at the end. So like that's the kind of problem it is. So I hope you guys learn as much from it as I did, and I hope you guys enjoy it as much as I did. So yeah, before we get started with the problem, I just want to tell you that this one is problem solving. So like, I'd appreciate if you guys could communicate with me at least through the chat. Unmuting is preferred since, as it was probably made obvious by now, I'm really bad with like technology and Zoom. So if you could just unmute so that I don't have to switch tabs a bunch of times, I would really appreciate that. But if you are going to choose to use the chat, it would be great if you could message everybody since what is it? Okay. I appreciate it if you can message everybody instead of just PMing me so that everybody can see your contribution and like we can discuss it sort of. And we'll all have more fun and learn more if we all participate. So yeah, let's start the problem. Okay, so the problem is basically this girl, she comes into the clinic with a couple of symptoms, and she has recent drastic weight gain. Her fingers and toes are tingling. She has fatigue and she feels cold often. So just based on these symptoms, what do you guys think could possibly be going wrong with her? Oh, yes, thyroid hormones. All right, yes, that's right. So specifically, thyroid hormones are going to be too low, right? Because thyroid hormones are, they play a part in metabolism. So drastic weight gain, fatigue, and feeling cold are all symptoms of hypothyroidism. So before we assume things, we should do a blood test. But before we do that blood test, we should learn a little bit about the thyroid pathway in general, just in case you don't like remember stuff or something. So here is the pathway for thyroid hormone synthesis. So essentially, the hypothalamus releases thyroid releasing hormone, which acts on the anterior pituitary to release thyroid stimulating hormone, which acts on the thyroid gland to release T4, which acts on target tissues to release T3. If you're wondering, T3 is actually thyroid hormone. Right, so let's do the blood test, and the results are that she is indeed low in thyroid hormone, but we're not going to put her on any meds yet because there might be other causes of low thyroid hormone other than like the last step, right? It could be any part in the pathway that's messed up. So we're going to do a second physical. Um, and from the second physical, we find that she has short metacarpals, which are like finger bones. So her finger bones are a lot shorter than normal. And we also see that she has nodules under her skin. So what do you guys think this suggests? And like along the lines of like what mineral could be responsible and would it be in excess or deficient in the blood? Do you have any ideas? Like what controls bones and what could possibly cause nodules under the skin? Yeah, I don't know, maybe. Yeah, it's calcium, yeah. Um, iodine is, it does control thyroid hormone, but we're talking about calcium based on just these symptoms that we see. So the metacarpals and the nodule in your skin. So yeah, it's calcium. So here is another hint if y'all couldn't guess, it was calcium, yeah. That was supposed to be if you guys can guess it. So anyways, yes, calcium. So I got something else in the chat. Cheese, wonderful. Yes, I love cheese. um, so yeah, so let's just take a look at why the symptoms could be calcium if you don't understand why. So nodules, the nodules are caused by calcium deposits around the skin. And this takes calcium away from what could have potentially been in the blood, which is like shows us that she probably has hypocalcemia again. And shorter metacarpals. Calcium has been taken away from bone growth to compensate for the calcium loss in the bloodstream. So that means as a homeostatic mechanism, we're trying to take away calcium from bones into the blood so that we can have appropriate levels of blood calcium. So that's causing the short metacarpals. And tingling is one that is, I'm a little bit fuzzy on it because I don't remember 100%, but about like the spastic processing, but like I'll talk about that in a couple seconds. So essentially, I like to call it baby tetany because it is like a lower level version of tetany. Like tetany is where your muscles are either super contracted and they're not able to relax. That's called spastic process. And or they're unable to contract, and that's called flaccid process, which we'll talk about on the next slide. So calcium is really important for muscle nerve function. If you don't have enough, in this Google snippet, you see like low calcium in the extracellular fluid increases the permeability of neuronal membranes, which allows sodium to come into the neurons, and that causes depolarization, which increases action potentials, and then your muscles are super contracted. So before we continue with what's going on with this girl, let's take a look at flaccid process. So quickly, it's off topic, but it's just something like fun that I liked reading about. So basically, we have an inability to contract the muscles, and this could be caused by botulinum toxin, which is released by Clostridium botulinum, and in diluted or lower amounts, it's used in Botox to help relax the facial muscles to get Angelina Jolie cheeks. So basically, the mechanism of function for botulinum toxin is it prevents the release of the neurotransmitter acetylcholine from neuromuscular junctions, axon endings at the neuromuscular junction, and this causes flaccid process because they're not able to stimulate the muscle. So yeah, what do we have in the chat? Yes, do not get Botox. You are all beautiful. So yeah, so here is just a quick picture of like the before and after effects of Botox. This person is tensing their muscles. It looks like on purpose, but I don't know. This is probably just for the ad, but this is just to show you guys like what Botox is supposed to do. As you can see, like the forehead muscles are tensed and Botox is like relaxing. It's making her look more happy, I guess. So yeah, back to the patient. So we have established that we have not enough calcium in blood, and this is probably caused by parathyroid hormone deficiency. And like when you have a mineral imbalance, and you know that there's a hormonal control mechanism behind it, it's a good idea to investigate that first. It's like a general rule of thumb. Like if it's if there's an imbalance of something, it's probably caused by a hormone. I mean, it's just like quick analysis. So yeah, basically what parathyroid hormone does, it is, oh my gosh, I can't talk today, is that it stimulates the release of calcium by bones into the bloodstream, absorption of calcium from food into the intestines, conservation of calcium by the kidney. So essentially what it's trying to do is increase your blood calcium, right? By taking it from the kidneys, taking it from your food, taking it from your bones, and that ties back to our shorter metacarpals from before, right? That's what parathyroid hormone was trying to do, but it couldn't because so basically we have a parathyroid hormone deficiency. So we're going to put her on some parathyroid hormone and she should be cured now, but she isn't because my presentation must go on. So that means we must have screwed up somewhere. So let's do a blood test to see what's wrong. But before I show you guys the results of the blood test, do you have any predictions for what possibly could have happened? Like what her calcium levels are? We've established that it's low calcium, but what her parathyroid hormone levels could be? Yeah. Because I want to make it hard on you guys. You exposed me, Risha. Why? Why? Well, no, but this isn't about calcitonin though. There's a problem with something else, but like you know what, last night I was actually looking over this and I was actually anticipating that question. So I was like, you know what? Never mind. Risha probably wouldn't try to destroy me here. Okay, anyways. So we are not testing calcitonin because that's not gonna matter for the rest of the problem. So like, what are your expectations for parathyroid hormone levels though? Come on, somebody say something, jeez. Any guesses? It could either be too high or too low. What do you guys think is gonna happen? Yeah, that's some good analysis, but you're wrong, haha, because you have to be wrong. That's the point of this. So I said it up so that you guys will get everything wrong. That's what I was saying in the beginning. This is one of those problems. Okay, so basically we have too much parathyroid hormone and low blood calcium. And if you were like paying attention, taking notes, like you're not supposed to be, but if you were, you'd sort of suspect this because she has short metacarpals. That means that parathyroid hormone is doing something somewhere, right? If her bones are not allowed to grow, that means like something is happening with parathyroid hormone. So it could be high, but it also looks like it's too low because we don't have enough calcium. So yeah, basically that's what's happening. Um, so if we have too much parathyroid hormone and low blood calcium, it means that parathyroid hormone is not doing its job. So for the other blood tests that we did in the beginning, she's also low in thyroid hormone. That means that this pathway right here is messed up in some place. It could be at the hypothalamus level, the anterior pituitary level, thyroid gland, etc. So it's at some place within that pathway. So actually, if you're familiar with the, I believe it's 10 steps, 10-step histidine synthesis pathway, you can tell like something about it's like an ox trough thing. I forgot. I read about it last night, but I forgot it. But it's something like that. Like you can figure out where they were messed up by like I don't know, some method. I don't know what I'm talking about anymore. Okay, ignore that. So basically, how do we figure out what's wrong with the pathway? And you don't need to take costs into account, just like what medical procedure could we conduct on our patient to figure out where in this pathway we're screwing up? Wow, that's advanced. I wasn't thinking of that. I mean, maybe that could work, but like, you know what? Maybe that could work. The levels of hormones. Oh my gosh, you guys are thinking so much more than I did. It's literally the most simple thing. Like, what would you do to figure out where we're going wrong? It's like the easiest thing possible. And cost, you don't have to take cost into account. It's literally like that's a big hint, the cost thing. Like, what could we possibly do? Okay. Yeah, it's a DNA analysis, y'all. Oh, what? Take out a cell that does this pathway and block the pathway at each cell and see the effects. Wow, that's some big brain analysis there. Wow, okay. Okay, well, it's more simple than that. It's a DNA analysis. Basically, look at is there anything wrong with peptide production? Is there anything wrong at the organ level? So yeah, um, basically, we do the analysis, we figure out that thyroid stimulating hormone is not able to do its job because there's a mutation in the GNAS1 gene, which encodes a part of a G protein, which is involved in receptors and cell signaling. I believe this was covered, the G protein pathway was covered in chapter 9 of Campbell's, at least in the global edition, it was like chapter 9, cell signaling or something like that. And parathyroid hormone happens to be affected by this mutation as well, since its receptor also uses a G protein. Um, yeah. So yeah. So since it's a problem at the gene level, like what can we do to like fix her? Oh God, there's a lot of stuff in the chat. Yeah. So what do we do now? And we can't do gene therapy because gene therapy is too much work. Yes, big brain. You guys are so fast. Okay, so we're gonna give her since she has hypocalcemia, we're gonna give her calcium. Since she has hypothyroidism, we just give her thyroid. And obviously, since the G protein pathway is used for other things, we're going to need to pay attention to like other functions that might be mediated by the G protein pathway. And if you guys are curious, the subunit that was affected is GS alpha. I don't know anything about it. If you want to know stuff about it, I don't know, like Google it, read Vander's. I mean, Vander's is an amazing book, but I do not remember the specifics of GS alpha. So yeah, oh yeah, and she was also treated with a derivative of vitamin D, which helps the intestines absorb calcium because she's hypocalcemic. And if you were curious, this condition is called pseudohyperparathyroidism. Real fast, let's like analyze that word. So pseudo means fake, hypo means less, parathyroidism is parathyroidism. So she's not having enough parathyroid hormone, or so it seems, right? Like her problem isn't with parathyroid hormone or any of that stuff. It's with the mechanism of actions with the receptor pathway itself. So yeah, that's my presentation. Thank you very much for listening. And the problem and all the information was from Vander's Human Physiology, 14th edition, chapter 5.